So, dear students, recommendations for social media use in hospitals and healthcare facilities. The author of our textbook, no, Udan and Calano, is just sharing to us how can we best address the concern on the social media in our setting in the hospital. Guys, we could not ban social media in the hospital because social media is everywhere. Social media is not only Facebook, it's not only Instagram, Twitter, but almost everything. Your emails, okay, your Google account could be associated to social media. So one of the recommendations that our author has is for us to formulate policies and guidelines in the hospital to clarify how do we handle your social media. Because if you would look at social media, look at the slides, no? Look at how we describe it. It's seen as a new avenue for creating connections and sharing information. And if you would look at it, that's good, diba? Okay, you're connecting, you're sharing informations. It's your ability to reach the global community. I mean, with a click, you will be able to inform people, oh, here comes COVID-19 pandemic. With a click, you will be able to educate people that they need to wear masks. So it is utilized for, look at that, it's utilized for health education. It's also utilized for promotion, proving itself to be an invaluable tool in the public health and professional networking and even your patient care benefit. So if you can notice, especially during the time of the pandemic, we were able to realize that social media is not only about sharing about our lives. Social media is not only about sharing about our love life or anything from our family, but it can also be used as a tool for public health. Okay? It's a tool for public health. That's why I repeatedly say that during the pandemic, the Department of Health actually utilized your social media for them to communicate to the people if what are the necessities that needs to be done. Okay? So, kadalasan, naririnig natin ay social media, hindi yan dapat ginagamit sa hospital. Ay Facebook, dapat hindi ka nag-Facebook sa hospital. That is actually correct, no? Dapat kapag duty hours natin, hindi naman talaga tayo dapat nag-Facebook. However, we need to understand that the role of social media is far beyond that alone. Okay? Mas sobra pa dyan ang role ng social media natin. Now, if you would look at social media, the challenge that we have is how to use social media responsibly. Okay? Just like any technology, let's try to look at social media as technology. Or let's try to look at social media just like the way we view money. If you would look at money, money is not evil. Diba? But it is the love of money that is considered the root of all evil. Can you recall that line that is being repeatedly taught to you, diba? Na sinasabi na hindi naman money yung evil, pero it's the love for money that makes evil. In the same way, guys, when we are dealing with technology, such as your social media, it is actually the use of social media that tells us whether social media will be good or bad. Okay? Now, ano po challenge? Responsible nga ba tayo sa paggamit natin ng social media? And are we using it or are we already abusing it? Okay? Kayo, mag-reflect kayo sa mga sarili ninyo and try to ask yourselves, when you are using your cell phones, when you are using your laptops, are you using it for your studies or are you using it to browse the internet at saka magmarites sa buhay ng iba? Okay? Just reflect, no? Just reflect on how you use your computers and your technology. And in the hospital setting, the author of our book reminds us that one of the solutions to this is to have self-regulation and institutional policy. In other words, sa hospital natin mismo, dapat may policy tayo as to how to deal with the social media. Because mind you, no, there's no such law that tells you bawal mag-Facebook sa hospital. Walang law na ganyan. Wala ding law na nagsasabi bawal mag-post sa Twitter about the hospital. There's no law like that. But there are policies from our hospitals which would tell us that. And hospitals and any healthcare institution must be able to adopt their own social media use policy appropriate for the institution. And what do we mean by those? No? What do we mean by those? Tingnan natin. Okay? So, class, anong mga main considerations natin kapag gumagawa tayo ng policy? The freedom of speech and expression is always there. Okay? Di ba halimbawa, pupunain ko kayo or I will call your attention and I will tell you, uy, what did you post in the Facebook? Okay? Ano yung post mo kanina? Anong kadalasang magiging response? Sir, it's my Facebook account. I have the freedom to post. 'Di ba? Yan kadalasan yung point of view natin. 'Di ba? Sinasabi, ba't yung kine-question yung Facebook post ko? Account ko naman yon. Okay? Now, class, your freedom to speech, remember, is a right. You have the right, you have all the freedom. But again, just like what our Constitution says, in every right, you have a responsibility. So if you are nurses already in the hospital, yes, we acknowledge that you have the freedom for expression. However, you have the responsibility and duty to respect the rights of others. Example. Nagalit yung pasyente sa'yo sa hospital. Tapos nag-post ka sa Facebook. Tapos sinabi mo, napakabwisit ng pasyente ko kanina. As a nurse, is that a prudent or a wise thing to do? Hi, students? Nagalit yung pasyente, minura ka ng pasyente, pinagalitan ka sa harap ng ibang tao, tapos nag-post ka sa Facebook, I hate my patient earlier. He is a blah and blah. Is it okay to be posted on Facebook? Yes, I want to see your responses. Yes, please. Response on chat, please. No daw, sabi ni Justin. How about yung iba? Okay. So class,
No, sir.
we understand that when you are frustrated, okay, there may be feelings na gusto nating ilabas sa social media. May mga feelings tayo na parang gusto nating ilabas, no? Parang feelings na, ang sarap ng feeling kapag mailabas ko ito or kapag masuntok ko yung isang tao. But please don't ever do that. One general tip maybe that I can give you is that you do not act on something when you are emotional. Okay? Tama yung mga points nyo. No, no, no. And I hope that you will stay with that. Because by the time that you are stressed and you are already in the hospital setting, ano po yung nangyayari? Okay? Napakaraming post ng mga new nurses na nakikita natin sa social media. Okay? I don't blame you. I don't blame those nurses if they are posting it. It just means, class, that you are too stressed and you were unable to manage it. Okay? So dapat ma-manage mo yung stress. And one thing that you need to remember, future nurses, is that when your patient is angry, you don't take it personally. That anger of your patient is not a personal attack towards you. It's actually, class, because of the frustration of your patient because they are sick. Okay? Just think of it like this, no? If you empathize to your patient and you understand your patient, kapag kayo yung may sakit, guys, ano bang feeling? 'Di ba? Irritating. 'Di ba parang nakakainis kasi kahit tatayo lang hindi mo kaya, kahit gusto mong kumain ng mga sabaw hindi mo siya ma-taste properly. You become frustrated with the simple things in life. In the same way that your patients are. Okay? Your patients are not actually angry towards you. Your patient is actually angry with the condition that they are having. That's why you don't take it personally and then post in your social media. Many nurses have already been legally sanctioned because of this. Ano yung common na nangyayari? May kaso ng pasyente na dismaya ang nurse, nag-post sa social media. Dati, may interesting case daw. Okay? I don't know if this is a real story, but I heard this from a colleague, na meron daw vibrator na kinuha sa colon ng pasyente. Okay? Vibrator in the colon of the patient. They were too interested of the case that they shared the picture of the x-ray online. Okay? What happened? Legal sanctions. Okay? So, hindi po yan nakakatuwa. Now, take note that we still stick to the fundamental right to privacy of every individual. And when we are making the policy, please take note that your focus should be your patient. Hindi po convenience ng nurse, pero ang unang focus po natin is yung pasyente natin. Okay? That's what you need to think of. Now, if you would look at the next slide, social media is defined as any electronic communication. Okay? Electronic communication daw siya. Pwede daw siya website, pwede daw siya application through which the users would connect, interact, or share information. Okay? Pwedeng Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, blog, social networking sites, and many more. as we speak, I believe marami pa yung dinadagdag dyan. Okay? Mas marami pa kayong alam na social media dyan. Now, the general rule there is respect the privacy of your patient. Do not post anything about your patient online. Do not post any picture online. Okay? May mga nurses dati nagpo-post. Tapos sasabihin, i-x-ray naman yun eh. Tinakpan ko naman yung pangalan ng patient. Hindi naman obvious na siya. Plus, that x-ray is not your property. That is an information of the patient. And wala kang right to share that. Okay? Sir, what about if I am doing research and then I am doing case study? Plus, isa po kasing uri ng research is case study. Ano? Halimbawa, class, may stage 4 cancer kayong na-meet sa area. Tapos, ang stage 4 cancer, naka-fully recover. Okay, di ba? Less likely mangyari yon, di ba? Parang miraculous recovery yon. So, as a researcher, you can make a case study out of it. Sir, kailangan ko ng picture at kailangan i-share online. What do I need to get from my patient before I can share the picture online? What do I need to get from my patient before I can share the picture online?
Consent, sir.
Very good. Okay, it goes back to consent. It goes back to consent. Sir, kung x-ray, wala namang face, still consent. Sir, ECG, puro lang naman lines yon, still consent because that does not belong to you. It belongs to the patient. Now, who is covered by the policy on social media use? Hindi lang po nurses, hindi lang po physicians, all other healthcare professionals in the hospital, all personnel in the hospital, mapa-billing department man, mapa-pharmacy man, lahat ng nagtatrabaho sa hospital, and lahat po na nagjo-duty sa hospital, including you as students, including us as clinical instructors, and even residents in training, should be covered by your policy on social media. Kahit mapa-housekeeping man, covered yan by the policy of social media. Okay? Kahit transport tech natin, they are covered by the policy on the use of social media. Okay? So basically, everybody in the hospital setting. Now, what are the general principles? Whenever you post to the social media, think of the social media as public. You think of your social media as public. Sir, private naman yung account ko. Oo nga, private yung account mo, pero ilan ang friends mo sa account mo? Sir, only me lang naman yung post ko. Bakit ka pa nag-post at saka i-only me? Okay? 'Di ba? Marami kasing lusot, no? Marami kasing lusot yung mga nurses. So take note, social media is equal to public. What you should not do in public is also the same thing that you should not post in the social media. Okay? Now, sir, are you limiting our posting in the social media? Somehow like that. Because as professionals, you already have responsibilities that you need to perform. Okay? Now, halimbawa, nag-post ka sa social media, pagkapangit ng school ko, okay, period. Tapos tinawag ko yung attention mo, oy, Mr. A, why did you post that? Sir, hindi ko naman sinabi kung anong pangalan ng school, di ba? Sabi ko lang, sir, ang pangit ng school ko. Pag open ng account mo, background, seal ng school mo, yung picture mo na sa building ng school mo. Oh, sino pang school ang sinasabi mong pangit, di ba? Okay? So you need to be careful about that. In the same way, if you are in the hospital setting, for example, halimbawa, if you are the nurse, no, and then you will say, I hate vaccines. COVID vaccine is ineffective. Halimbawa, ganun yung na-post mo. Tapos nurse ka in Hospital A. Hospital A has the right to call your attention. The Department of Health has the right to call your attention. Sir, paano? Anti-vax ako, hindi ako naniniwala sa vaccine. We respect that, okay? Hindi kita mapipilit. Pero as a nurse, you have the responsibility to protect public health. And by protecting public health, what I mean is that you would advance the programs that are advocated for by our government. Okay? You need to advance the programs that are advocated for by our government. And during that time, during that time ng pandemic, no, kung nakikita po ninyo, during the time of pandemic, ano nga ba yung nangyari during the time of pandemic? During the time of pandemic, we have concerns on vaccine hesitancy, di ba? Maraming ayaw magpabakuna. Okay? And as you can see, the Department of Health is giving us a mandate that we need to have the vaccines because it is what could help us. It is what could help the general public. So kung ikaw yung nurse na hindi mo kaya magpa-vaccine, okay lang, respetuhin natin yan. Pero don't post in the social media na vaccines are useless. Vaccines are gift from the evil. It's not the becoming of the nurse. Are you getting my point? Are you getting my point? So kung ayaw mo magpa-vaccine, okay lang. Pero may responsibility ka bilang nurse na ingatan yung health natin. Okay? That's one thing. Now, the nurse should always be conscious of his or her online image and how it impacts the profession or the institution. Okay? So by the time that you are a nurse, for example, common policy namin sa hospital is nagsasabi, bawal maggamit ng cellphone for personal use. Pagkatapos may mga nurses na nagpo-post ng picture, nagsi-selfie sa nurses station. Tapos sasabihin ng mga nurses, sir, wala naman kaming trabaho during that time. Okay, wala daw silang trabaho pero may 10 pasyente sila. So guys, as long as you have patients, how come that you would not have work? You always have work to do once you have your patients. And look at this now. There were legal cases kung saan plus napabayaan yung pasyente, okay? Napabayaan yung pasyente class, no? During the admission in the hospital. And then later on, when the patient complained, they found out that the nurses have posted in the social media during the time of their duty. So ginamit yung class ng patient and the family members as a ground to file a legal complaint against the nurses. Bakit daw sila napapabayaan? During this time daw, nakapost pa naman sa social media. Are you getting the point? Are you getting the point kung bakit hindi po tayo pwedeng mag-post sa social media? In the same way, why are you not allowed to, di ba? Oftentimes hindi ka allowed maggamit ng clinical uniform when you are going around the mall. Why? If you are a student nurse or if you are a nurse and then you are at the mall identified to have that uniform, you are supposed to act or react and help to the emergencies. Now, kapag naka-uniform ka, pagkatapos di mo tinulungan yung nagka-emergency, you can be held liable. Because you can be seen na, uy, naka-uniform ka, ba't wala kang ginawa? You are a healthcare professional and by the code of ethics, you have a responsibility to help the society. Okay? So those are some of the things now that you need to be mindful of. Now, another thing is that social media could be used for health education and promotion. Diba? Pwede tayong mag-educate. But if you are educating, please make sure that you are well informed of the social media post, of the subject matter. Halimbawa, no, during the pandemic, napakaraming videos na kumakalat. May kumakalat na video na nagpabakuna, tapos pagkabukas daw namatay. Nagpabakuna, tapos daw nagkagrabe yung fever. Pero tig-isa-isang kaso lang yon. Okay? One isolated case, tapos na-share sa social media na exaggerate. May ibang mga video na gawa-gawa lamang, tapos hindi naman reliable. So if you are sharing something in the social media, make sure that you are well informed. Ibig sabihin, you need to make sure that your knowledge is accurate. Okay? Now, anong kadalasan kong ginagawa at nire-recommend? I usually share materials from the Department of Health. That will suffice. Now, how about if nagkamali ka ng post? No? Halimbawa, nag-post ka, tapos later on may nag-comment, hello nurse, ako po pala isang doktor. Mali po yata ang na-post natin, parang misinformation. Politely check on the information and then try to rescind or try to correct it if you found out it to be wrong. Okay? Huwag mong awayin at saka sabihin, oo doktor ka, ako nurse din. Kung ikaw matalino, matalino rin ako. Huwag ganon, ha? Huwag warfare. Huwag warfare. You validate the information. Refrain from any activity which would spread misinformation, and then you always focus on evidence-based and disclose connections if meron kang connections sa pharmaceutical companies. Halimbawa, kapag nagtatrabaho ka sa isang pharmaceutical company, you need to disclose that you are associated with this pharmaceutical company so that people will think, if you are promoting it or are you really genuine on what you are doing. Okay? Now, avoid using social media to dispense specific medical diagnosis. Halimbawa, nag-text ang classmate mo, alam mo classmate, nag-fever ako tapos may cough ako for 3 days. Sabihin mo, ay okay classmate, COVID-19 na yan. Guys, we are not the ones licensed to diagnose, and even doctors are not supposed to dispense diagnosis through the social media. When you diagnose somebody kasi, it needs explanation. When you give advice, treatment, it needs face-to-face explanation. You also avoid misinterpretation and misrepresentation. Misinterpretation class, so wag mali-mali yung interpretation. Okay? Wag paaway-away, ayun pala hindi ka nakakaintindi ng research findings. Wag complain, ayun pala hindi mo alam ang guidelines. How about misrepresentation? For example, in our case, in your case as future nurses, do not portray yourself as if you are nurses right now. Okay? Huwag kang mag-post sa social media, I'm a nurse. I would like to recommend COVID-19 vaccine. Or, do not post in the social media, I'm a doctor, because we are nurses. Okay? Maliban na lang kung magdo-doctor kayo sa huli, ano? That's what we refer to as misrepresentation. In other words, you represent yourself as somebody else. Okay? You represent yourself as somebody else. So, let's avoid misrepresentations. Huwag po tayong ganon. Now, we need to be professional in the use of social media. And by being professional, what do we mean by that? There should be a separate email account for personal and professional use. That's why you can notice, di ba? May mga school email tayo at blank.edu.ph. That would indicate that this is for school use and this is my email for personal use. Halimbawa, kapag pupunta ako ng Hawaii for my vacation, I should be using my personal email, not my official school email. If I would want to email the ticketing company, personal email ko yon kasi personal trip to Hawaii. Pero if I have a professional trip, for example, going towards United States, and I will be bringing my students towards United States, I need to use my school email. And the individual should conduct himself in the same way that he would be in the public. Okay? So tulad ng sabi ko kanina, you equate social media from the public. Now next, you are not supposed to use the name, the logo, or the symbol of the school without prior authority, okay, for that social media activity. Then you shall not, mahalagang reminder to, baka kayo fall. So individuals must not accept former or current patients as friends or contacts in their personal accounts. Baka mamaya may pasyente kayo sa hospital, tapos huli na namin ma-discover na kayo pala'y close to you na, at saka baka mamaya ikakasal na kayo. Okay? So, ganon, So, kindly take note of that. Now, next, informal and personal information concerning a patient, colleague, or the health facility shall not be posted, shared, or otherwise used in the social media. Okay? So, halimbawa, nag-usap tayo about the patient. Halimbawa, kami ni Colleen nag-usap. Sabi ni Colleen, sir, may case ako kanina, gastroenteritis. Tapos nag-usap kami. Hindi pwedeng i-share ni Colleen yon sa social media. Hindi ko rin pwede yun i-share sa social media because that's a professional communication. And we are not supposed to share anything taken within the health facility. Okay? May mga legal risk po tayo dyan. Now, what are examples of defamatory post, comments, or other social activities? Plus, bawal itong mga defamatory So, anything that imputes a discreditable act. Halimbawa, nakita na yung nurse mali yung ginawa. Okay? Halimbawa, may family member nagpicture. Uy, mali ang procedure ng nurse na post. Plus, the nurse can actually file a case against the family. That's why we always educate the family that they are not supposed to take pictures during the procedures. Okay? Kasi mahirap po, mahirap protektahan ang sarili natin lalo na kapag public scrutiny na yung kaharap natin. Next, if the activity is viewed or seen by any person, and then the person or institution defamed is identified or readily identifiable, and then there is malice or intent to damage the reputation of another. Okay? So be careful. Even legal authorities, class, they are limited only to take pictures based on what is required by law. Halimbawa, yung mga pulis, kapag pupunta sila sa hospital, they could not take the picture of the entire hospital. Kaya kahit kriminal yung pasyente mo, class, they can only take the picture of the patient. They are not supposed to take the picture of the entire vicinity and then post it in the social media. Bakit? Once the picture of the vicinity class is taken, or once the picture class of the vicinity is taken, there is a possibility for security risk. Okay? So hindi dapat pinopost yon. Okay? Now, ano pa yung prohibited? So anything that would defame, harass, stalk, or bully another person, the use of others' social media account, posting, sharing, or otherwise using conversations between doctors, individuals, or patients when such recording, audio, or video was obtained without consent. Take note of that. Halimbawa, the doctor is doing the procedure in the OR. Tapos kapamilya mo yung patient. Nagpicture ka, tapos shinare mo sa family. Hindi po yun pwede once you have not taken the permission of the doctor and the healthcare team. Okay? Hindi lang po yun para sa patient, para din po yun sa healthcare team. So if the hospital says that we're not supposed to take pictures, you don't take pictures because there's a lot of legal risk there. How about if students? Kapag students po, depende po yun sa agreement between the school and the hospital, but surely the school will be the one to sanction the student. That's number one. And or the hospital can also sanction the students. If there is severe infraction or severe na hindi na follow na idea, ang student po pwedeng i-ban sa pag-duty sa isang healthcare institution. Okay, in severe cases. In severe cases. And then disciplinary action depending on the extent of the infraction that the student has committed. Okay? So I hope that with this discussion, you are able to remember that social media is a right, but we also have responsibilities on how to deal with it.